Okay, so Pokémon Champions is here, and competitive Pokémon has never been this accessible before. My timeline is completely taken over with all kinds of different people trying VGC for the first time, asking questions, and falling in love with 4 versus 4 double battles. And I think this is the perfect moment to have a conversation that I have been wanting to have on this channel for a while. Why is it so rare to see women in competitive Pokémon? Pokémon is a series that is loved by people of all ages, nationalities, and genders, but still, if you sit down to watch an official Pokémon event, you will see that the overwhelming majority of players are men. Unfortunately, there is no official data regarding these demographics released by the Pokémon Company, but just to give you an idea, this little channel's gender demographics for the video game niche, I would say are pretty balanced. I have a 60% male audience and 40% of women and gender non-conforming people watching. But for this video, I got in touch with a few channels with over 100,000 subscribers focused on VGC strategy and analysis. So basically content that is aimed at people who are actively playing VGC. Their gender ratios vary from 92% to 98% of a male audience, which is crazy to me. Also a little bit anecdotal, but looking at the list of players classified for Pokémon Worlds 2025, I can count 4 clearly female names out of 400 players. Of course, there are many gender-neutral names, but I think it paints a picture. Women, girls, and gender non-conforming people love Pokémon, but something is preventing them from diving head deep into the competitive scene. And today, I wanted to investigate what is happening and what we as a community can do to change it. So, I have 3 very special guests who will bring their own perspectives after being for over a decade in VGC, competing, casting, and coaching. We have simply Gabby Snyder, video game commentator for Play Pokémon and Bidoof fan, Olivia Moledzki, 5 times Pokémon Worlds qualifier, and Zoe Lou, 2017 Oceania International Champion and official Pokémon caster. Again, I would like to thank you all so much for taking the time to join me today. I would like you all to just introduce yourself a little bit for viewers who might not have seen you before, or yeah.
So my name is Zoe Lou and I am an Australian VGC player. I've been part of the circuit for quite a long time now, so I'm a bit of a grandma of the game. And I think I first started playing back in 2014, which is a very long time ago. In 2022, I moved to London, and after that, I kind of got back more seriously into Pokemon, and nowadays, I split my time between casting, judging, and competing.
So if Zoe's the grandma, then that makes me the ancient, because I actually started competing with the inception of VGC technically in 2009, and then prior to that in 2006 during the Journey Across America tour.
Journey Across America, yes.
Yeah, so happy 30th and 20th anniversary to that. But yeah, my name's simply Gabby Snyder, mostly known for casting nowadays, since I primarily do that. I'll try and enter locals when I can, and I'll usually try and compete 1 or 2 times a year at larger tournaments, but I primarily split my time between casting and judging our locals in the Boston area. I really find joy in that, and as much as I would love to compete more, I think it's really important to give back, and I've reached the point in my life where that fits my schedule a lot better.
Hi, I'm Olivia, a Vox and Timbits Moledzki. I've been playing VG for about 8 years now, since Sun and Moon 2017. I've qualified for 5 world championships. I basically only compete, but I really love being part of the game. I enjoy being around these great women in the Discord call.
In the Discord call, yes.
Anybody else to compete with.
I want this to be a very free discussion, so feel free to interrupt me and also have a back and forth. I'm here to take the back seat and hear what you have to say. Why do you think the gender gap exists? And what specific obstacles are there to women and gender non-conforming people when getting started and continuing in VGC?
So I'd like to start by saying that I don't think the gender gap is as visible as it used to be. My first ever Pokemon event, that was a competition, which is an important caveat because prior to competing, there were Pokemon events that, believe it or not, were just events where you'd go meet Pikachu. Heaven forbid we'd have fun with this game. There were only 3 women there. and that was it. It was pretty bad. But like nowadays, I think back to like the World's Championships this past year, and I remember seeing everybody there. Like, you name the kind of person you want to see, I guarantee you they were there in droves. So I think that if you were to walk into like your average Pokemon event nowadays, it wouldn't be as visible as a gap as it used to be. That being said, I do think that there is still a competitive gap. And I think a lot of it is still like accessibility. It's still like a lot of the reasons that people were looking to champions, I think, to, you know, fix some of the hurdles in getting sort of into competitive Pokemon that have been present for years. Like, you know, everybody will say like, oh, well, it takes you a lot of time to get Pokemon to compete, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think Champions has been out long enough to say it does a good job of addressing most of that. But then I also think that there's just a lot of, it takes a group of friends, I think, to really come into competitive Pokemon and be successful. And I think that's something that I've been really thankful for. And I don't know if you feel the same way, Olivia and Zoe, but I found my group of people pretty early on in Pokemon. I didn't really show up to an event having those people, but I just happened to be standing in line next to the person who'd be my husband, for an example. And because of that, I kept coming back and I was never really discouraged. And I do have to wonder sometimes if like someone just shows up to an event and just doesn't have those people, and you know, you just end up having a bad time, if that is enough to just discourage you from coming back.
Yeah, I agree. The gap is lessening compared to, say, when I first started competing. And I think that is something that it's not just for women, but for everyone who's new to the competitive scene. Like, a regional is a really big investment in terms of both time and money. You've got to, for most people, they had to fly to some place, then you'd book hotels, and then there's entry fees. And if you're just starting in the game, you probably don't have that confidence to go, oh, I'm going to fly to, you know, another state if you're in the US, or I'm going to go to another country if you're in Europe and do that. And so from what I've seen of going to locals, there's usually, you know, 1 to 2 women out of, say, 10, 20 people. So I think, you know, it is, we are getting more women, but I think most people will probably want to feel a bit more confident before they start investing financially into regionals. So for most of the newer players, if they are going to be attending a regionals for the first time, it's usually going to be in their home state or in their home country, where, you know, if you do, say, get knocked out in phase 1, that's okay. You can just go home that same day, not have to kind of feel bad about being stuck in a hotel. And the other thing I would say that might be a bit more particular to women is that maybe every woman maybe has a different risk tolerance, but for the most part, you can save a lot of money by pooling together and sharing an Airbnb or a hotel. And if you're a woman, I think there is a bit more hesitation. Like, I wouldn't room with a group of men that I've never met before, whereas I would do that with a group of women. But because there are less women, then it's a bit harder for someone who's newer to the scene, who hasn't built up a network of friends that they trust, to go say, oh, well, just go room with these random people that they've never met before. Like, very few women, I would say, would go ahead and do that.
I played a bit of like Smash during quarantine. I kind of have the Smash mentality of, oh, hey, whatever gets me to the next event. And you just room with 10 people I've never met in a hotel room. Who cares? But I will say there's as much as I want to do that now, just to attend as much as I can, there's always this little thought in the back of my mind where it's like, oh, maybe I should just room with people I know, or room with myself, just in case anything might happen. Not saying that there would be, but the gender difference in VG's definitely gotten better over the past years. I remember when I had started, I was the only one in my local scene, I believe. Now there's a handful who show up to every local. That's been a really good thing to see. We have a small women's group within Toronto, which is really nice. It's nice to see more player attendance of women at these regionals and internationals, even worlds. I think Sisterhood is a really, really good program to have.
I know Gabby loves Sisterhood.
Absolutely. It's such a good program. I had played one of their events, Worlds, this past year, just to kill some time, but the people I met there, amazing, really good experience. And I think having that section group of women to like compete in a tournament for themselves gives a lot of
it helps build community too, right? A small community really inside a big community.
It's about those initial connections. Like when I met the other 2 women at Journey Across America, we actually exchanged contact info. Back then it was AIM. I'm just gonna keep dating myself throughout this call. What the heck?
Don't actually know what that is.
Pokemon is 30.
AOL
Let's go.
Instant
Let's go.
Messenger. Imagine Discord but worse. And you had a status and you'd set it to your favorite song lyric, and people would judge you on it. But anyways, like we exchanged contact info and we stayed in touch, and it was like this really big thing. And we were like, well, we're going to try and make something of this. Like, we're going to try and get more women interested. And it ultimately fell apart because there just wasn't enough people. I remember being really upset because it was like passion was there, but when you only could find one other person at the local GameStop tournament, it was like, okay, well, this is like a movement that's going at like minimum speed. So seeing sisterhood take off has been really rewarding for me because that was essentially what I was trying to build back in the day. I just didn't have the resources. And also I was in high school, and, you know, a high school girl trying to organize something like that on the internet, you could guess why that would go wrong very quickly. So
I was staffing at EUIC, and I believe on the Saturday we had a sisterhood event, and there was a really big turnout, which I was really happy to see. Because I remember, I think one of the first sisterhood events in Europe, I think nobody even showed up, and that was a little bit disheartening. But the tournament organizers kept organizing it with each regional not being put off, and it was really nice at EUIC to see such a big group.
Literally when I met Gabby, and I think we took a photo. I think we had about 20 or 25 people-ish.
it was the biggest sisterhood I've personally seen. I would hope that there have been bigger ones since, and I just haven't been there, but I couldn't tell you, unfortunately.
From what you are all telling, I feel like making friends and finding community helps out a lot when starting out in VGC. And for girls, maybe because there are less girls playing, they have more difficulty in finding like-minded people that they can, finding community helps. I wanted to understand if, when you were starting learning VGC, when you started playing VGC, competing, going to these events, do you think there were certain challenges or obstacles specifically to you that your male peers did not have to deal with? Do you have any examples or stories or?
So a lot of the time, especially when I check in for events, even now, it's always been a bit difficult to try and explain to judges and just any staff there that I need to show my ID to, or my player ID and all that. I'm the name isn't the same, and I have to go on a big explanation every single time. The only time this specific instance had happened was at actually my first Masters event, Orlando 23, where I went up to one of the staff members, tried to check in, and then I had to go through a whole loop of judges coming in, just trying to make sure I'm the one getting my ticket to play and not somebody else. And it became a whole big problem. I'm lucky I have a good friend, TJ. He was a head judge, I believe, at that event. Great guy. He was able to step in and be like, oh, I know this person. Well, it's okay. But it does feel very difficult sometimes to try to trans women in the space.
Whereas it is an obstacle that is quite specific to the trans experience, I think this is something that cisgender players, which are also the big majority of people we are seeing competing and winning on streams, that it's one less hurdle that they need to go through. So that's one of the adding extra factors that might. I'm sure that somebody in the comment section will just say, "Oh, it's not that deep. Men are just more competitive than women." But even if we were to entertain that idea, 90 to 95% are insane differences. So I do have the impression, and that's what I'm trying to hear the stories from you and the ideas from you, that it's a lot of little small challenges that go building up and that men just don't deal with, right?
When I first started, one of the challenges I found was that because there weren't any other women, I then obviously wanted to try and befriend just normal male VGC players. And I very distinctly remember one time I asked someone if they could just have a practice match with me, and goes, "Oh, sorry, I have a girlfriend." And I was like,
"What?
Okay." That has no relevance to wanting to play a best of 3 set, but okay. So then it made me a bit hesitant in asking a man to, practice with me, because I didn't want it to be seen as me trying to ask somebody out. But nowadays I've found, because of Discord and is it called draft league, where you have team coaches and then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
coaches kind of draft.
Yeah.
Joining those at a grassroots level was really helpful. I joined a couple of those and it was so easy to get a game. I could just go into Discord and be like, hey, anyone in this group, can you help me with a best of 3? And instantly someone would jump in like, yeah, sure. I'll jump in and play with you. How many matches do you want? Do you want me to play with a sand team, a rain team? So I think it's getting a lot better now that we don't have to only make friends with women. If the gender gap continues to kind of lessen, I think the skill level of women will gradually get better, because if you practice with good players and you practice consistently, then naturally your own skill level will get better.
I do think as time's gone on, with VGC becoming a lot more mainstream through like Wolf, through Worlds, through regionals, getting a lot more women playing feels like it makes the gap not as visible. It's a lot more just streamlined, where everybody's just competing at the same level more or less.
Mhm.
And I can go into like a public Discord server for VG and talk to like some women, some men, just ask for matches whenever I want. Anybody will really give me a response, kind of like what you were saying nowadays. I do think that the gender gap's still there, but I think it's blurring more and more as time goes on. And I'm hopeful, like, given the next couple of years, assuming the scene still goes on this strong, it will basically be as even as it realistically could be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the point where it doesn't matter. Like, I think there's always going to be some sort of gap, similar to how in like some careers you just naturally get more of one gender than another. And while obviously I would love for everything to be a solid 50-50, like realistically, there's always going to be some factors at play that'll prevent that. I do think that we're getting to a point where like people see a very obviously feminine username and it's not like you get judged anymore. Like, because I remember when I first started, I was primarily active on like the non-competitive forums, so basically not Smogon, because that was really the only competitive forum back in the day, because this was like predating Nugget Bridge and the like. When I was talking VGC over there, everything was fine, but nobody was really good, so it was like whatever. But then when I jumped over to Smogon with my original handle, people were like, oh, like you want to learn competitive? Like you have like flowery things in your name, like So then I actually picked a new handle that was androgynous, because it was like, well, if you're not going to take me seriously, like what do I have to do to like get in the club, so to speak. And similar to what Zoe was running into, like that was how I got around it. I was just like, well, if you're not going to listen to me when I'm Pink Sparkle 97, which was not my handle, I just made it up.
It's a killer handle, by the way.
Thank you. I'm going to go lock it in on
Champions
right now.
Yes.
I'm going to pick this thing instead. And like, it was just like a lot of little things like that just kind of added up over time for me that became really frustrating after a while. But I'm really glad to hear that that's not so much an issue anymore, because like at the end of the day, that was what I was always hoping for. Like, I just want people to be able to bring their authentic selves into Pokemon and into competitive, whether that's you're someone who identifies as male and you just want to vibe, or if you're someone who identifies as female and you want to go competitive to the point where you crash out spectacularly, or if you identify as whatever you want and you want to do something in the middle, or both, or neither, like whatever that is, I don't care. I just want you to be here and have fun.
I like this optimism that I don't know, I'm feeling very optimistic with Champions, and also hearing that you feel that the scene has been getting gradually better. I wanted to give a shout out because a member of my Discord started sending me some videos of Fusli, who is a big streamer who's recently getting into her VGC era, and she's making like this huge, very cute vlogs of like my first regional, my experience meeting people. Like it gave me a very good feeling for her to be able to go through this in a more welcoming environment than it was 10-15 years ago.
Feels so bad, actually, because I cameoed in one of her videos accidentally, and it was during Seattle when I was absolutely crashing out.
That's
like
that's just real life. That's real life VGC. That's not glamours. That's what happens.
Yeah, someone sent me a screenshot in a DM. They're like, "That's you. You're in Fusli's video," and I was like, "Ooh, maybe I shouldn't say anything in response." That was not a good day.
Zoe, I did some research, and I believe you are the only woman ever to have won an international level Masters event. It was the 2017 Oceania Internationals. I wanted to hear a little bit of the story of that tournament because I think that's super cool. And I want to ask how the reception was, the conversation online back in 2017, what it was.
So by that point, I'd already been playing VGC competitive and had a small group of friends. So I already had that kind of friend base already, which was very lucky for me. So I was able to, I didn't play as much as I think the high level players play nowadays, but back during 2017, usually, first round of regionals, you would come across an in-game team. So the skill level was a little bit lower back then. And it was actually really interesting because 2017 was when I was graduating university, I think, or kind of graduating my bachelor's. And I thought, I would like to focus a bit more on my career. So this is going to be the last game I ever play.
It often
I
is.
was into it with that mindset, but
often
obviously I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll keep playing then. I think for me, like back then, the skill level being a bit lower probably helped me because I don't think it's quite as easy nowadays for any one person to win because there's so many players and the skill level is just so high. And I do have to say, one thing that did definitely help me is a very team-specific thing was that my team was very weak to katana back in the day, and my opponent had a katana, but in the finals, he lost his katana due to a team sheet error. I think if he had the katana, I may not have won that IC.
You won the IC, and that's what
Real
counts.
life luck. But the reception I think was very, very good. Like all my friends were very happy for me. And I remember so when normally there's a prize war at ICs and I wanted this really cool Tyranitar playmat. But obviously because I was playing for the entire weekend, I never had time to play side games. So all of my friends actually pulled together all of their prize war tickets and bought me the Tyranitar
so
playmat,
sweet.
which I still have
That's
at
so
home,
cute.
which I think for me, even back then, even though the gender gap was a lot bigger then, I had very good reception, to winning. One of the things that maybe have helped was that I wasn't on social media back then. So apparently there was some drama on Twitter when I won. I was completely obliviously unaware of it because I wasn't on social media. So I had a couple of my friends, send me screenshots and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not on it.
I got in the Worlds right after Worlds 2017. Like, I caught the stream playing. Was my foot in the door to Pokemon competitively. When I started competing, one of the videos I look online for to watch and learn how to play, I think was your finals match for the international.
Oh, really? Oh.
I remember that one and a regional final between Wolf and Ashton, some regional in 2017.
It's a full
But
circle.
I
It's
just
so
want
cool.
to put that out there. I don't think I've ever told anybody that.
So moving on, another topic that we had brought up was in regards to safety. I have the impression that as everything we have been saying so far, it is getting better, but I feel like there's still a lot of things we can do. So what is your feeling regarding that?
So at Worlds this past year, when I played that Sisterhood event, I believe this is the only time this ever happened. There was a male player who actually was able to enter the event and compete in it. Something I found really interesting is that it's not as much of a safety issue, but it's more of because it is designed for the woman to compete, try and build more of a community for us. Having something like that come up, and I believe he also ended up winning. But it's just, it's very interesting to look at. When we're trying to have these spaces to grow, it's kind of hard to have something like that happen because then it sets it back a couple feet.
It does, for sure. I do know that story. I was following it somewhat closely. The player did say it was an accident, that he joined the Sisterhood event. But even then, it defeats the whole purpose, right? It is community building. It is a moment to be for fun, for meeting people just like you. And this guy walked in because he wanted some extra tickets for the prize. Well, for people at home, I'm not sure if we explain exactly what the Sisterhood event is. It is a side event that happens in Pokemon competitions. Anybody can join, whether if you're competing or you're just a spectator. I think it's 3 matches that you play randomly. It doesn't matter if you win or you lose the matches. You get some prize tickets you can exchange for booster packs, Tyranitar, playmats, stuff like that. it also shows that this player kind of did not care about the Sisterhood event that much, and I think that's the kind of conversation we need to have to explain why this is here, why this is important, and why this space needs to exist and needs to be protected, right?
I remember after hearing that, I had a couple conversations with people, not necessarily people related to anything related to running Sisterhood, but just like conversations about if we could theoretically run a Sisterhood event without prizing, purely networking, like why don't we all just have a meetup type thing?
Yes.
And I remember a lot of the conversations were like, well, then what would be the point? And it was interesting. I think that's still something I would be sort of advocating for, like obviously having one still for prizing, but also having one just to get people of like minds together in case something like this were to happen again. Because my understanding is that you can't really bar somebody from a side event because that just sets a really bizarre precedent that like would not uphold well anywhere. So I don't know. It's very messy. And I remember I was really sad when I heard about that. And I really hope it doesn't happen again. But it would be nice to also see, especially for people who maybe don't want to jump in and compete, if you are interested in competitive and you don't want to spend the 15 USD or I think it was like 20 Canadian to join Sisterhood, like show up at the Bidoof side event banner at 3 p.m. to meet other people or something. You know?
I feel like there are so many community run events that are happening parallel to the VGC events, like the full odds shiny hunting challenge that people do every time, and it's completely fan organized, and it's about network, and it's about an hour just of shiny hunting. Oh, and it's a fun moment to have fun.
I do think that there are enough good people in good places that I would hope that safety isn't necessarily an issue. Like, obviously, there's always going to be bad actors, but I think the community is pretty strong against them.
I've been quite fortunate in that I've not had any incidents during kind of tournaments and during regionals. But for me, I think most of my safety issues have been logistics, like getting to the venues and getting back. A lot of the times when I'm traveling solo, or if it's at a local that's quite far away, but there have been times when, you know, some event will finish at 10 p.m. and then if I'm going home all on my own at 10 p.m., it's a little bit scary, and that's not the fault of the venue. It's just the fact that I'm walking alone in the dark. And I have to say that most regionals, if I'm staying kind of somewhere close to the venue, I can generally find a group of players who are willing to walk me back to like my hotel or to my Airbnb. But if I cannot, then I have to think about, say, taking an Uber home. And I think for someone maybe that's a bit newer to the scene, or if they're not traveling with a big group, it can be a concern.
I think a little outside the events, but with what's been going on recently, like America and such, as a foreigner and as a trans foreigner, it gets very scary in a way, I guess, to go to events now, just because it's always thought at the back of my mind where I just need to try and stay as safe as possible while I'm abroad. Like, for example, when I was just in Seattle, there's the thought's always there. Luckily, with the amount of players and people being really good in the scene, I feel comfortable existing in America right now, going to these events, because I at least have people around me to like defend me. But it's always felt a little off, especially the past year or so. I'm hoping, going back to Pokemon events, seeing next season, maybe they take that into account in some form for the regionals. I don't know how realistic that is, but that would be probably my biggest hope going into the next season.
Yeah, it's tough too, because like Seattle's a tricky one. Speaking from experience when I lived there, like obviously it's a very liberal city, but I remember right around February 2020, so you know, before things got really bad, but back when the news was certainly covering COVID, Chalky was visiting me, and like just walking around outside, we were running into a lot of issues. It's tough because you think like you could be safe in a place like that, but then there's always bad actors everywhere. And I think that even if cities aren't necessarily in the best places, if players want, it would be nice to just get a group together just to, you know, make sure people can get to and from places safely. And I would gladly volunteer my time for something like that if we want to organize it. because I do know that for like event venues and stuff, like sometimes these contracts are locked in years in advance, and barring like COVID, you can't really get out of it. So yeah, it's not great.
To close it up, I think with Champions, there are lots of young girls and women and women that never played VGC before, and gender non-conforming people that are picking up VGC for the first time, and they are really excited, and this is really cool. They fell in love with the game, and now they want to compete. Which advice you would give to this person watching us right now? After 8, 10, 15 years in the scene, what is your advice to girls and gender non-conforming people?
You can do it.
We need you to win worlds. Let's go.
Dive headfirst into it. I did that. Best choice in my life. Seriously. It's so fun. Best community out there.
I was just gonna say, for like every kind of negative interaction I've had, there's usually been like 20, 30 positive interactions, and there's always going to be someone who doesn't like you just because you're you, but don't worry about those. Find the people who care about you, who love you, and accept you as you are, and stick with those people because you will find them.
Yeah, and on top of all that, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like, I think one of the things that hurt me the most as a player when I was starting out was feeling like I had to be perfect because people were judging me for what I was rather than who I am. It really hurt my performance for a very long time, and arguably I still get in that mindset on bad days today. So just, if you want to try making a stupid team and fail miserably with it, do it, learn what you can, move on, do something fun, have fun with it. And then when you're ready to win worlds, just use what you learned with your silly Mr. Mime team and go win worlds. Maybe not with Mr. Mime though.
Probably not with Mr. Mime.
That probably won't work.
Yes.
Wow. I am offended on Mr. Mime's behalf.
Someone has to get the Mr. Mime Professor title in Pokemon Champions.
But
whether or not
Mr.
they'll win
Rhyme.
Worlds with it. Oh, Mr. Rhyme.
But
excuse
Mr.
me.
Rhyme. Okay, so thank you all so much for taking the time again. I wanted to give you all some spaces. If there's anybody watching and they think you're super cool and they want to follow you or watch your content or get in touch for some coaching, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, okay. Well, I'll say it then. Olivia, who's above me, does coaching, and I hear she's really good. So check her out at A Box of Timbits on socials. I'm assuming everywhere.
Everywhere. Yes.
Zoe's
here. Zoe's here.
Shoot.
Everyone.
Zoe. Zoe's an incredible caster, and she also does really cute drawings. So you can find her at Silver Thrower.
I actually changed it to illustrations to actually reflect the art.
Great. So check out her art there, and also whenever she's casting an event, she's really good. And if that's not enough, and you for some reason want to follow me for my stupid Bidoof content, you can follow me at Simply Gabby or Simply Gabby Snyder, depending on if someone took my handle or not already. But follow the other two wherever they are first. And you already follow Cecilily, but if you don't, then just smash the bell.
Smash the subscribe button. Smash that like button. After smashing that like button, I would like to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope this conversation helped you better understand the lived experiences of women in the VGC scene. I believe at the end of the day that highlighting players and giving them space to play, win, and be seen with safety and respect is the best way forward for competitive Pokemon to truly be for everyone. If you enjoyed this one, here's another 2 Cecily VGC videos you could also like. One where I built a team from day 1 in Pokemon Champions using my favorite Pokemon, and another where I attend the biggest Pokemon tournament of all time. I hope you enjoyed them.